Ann Arbor's Talk Station, 1290 WLBY. Damian on Design. Each week he talks about the impact of design in our lives. And today we're going to help everyone with any remodeling projects they might have. Damian is Damian Farrell, local architect with Damian Farrell Design Group. It can be rather daunting, first of all, sitting in a house that you know needs to be remodeled, but trying to figure out where to start
Where do you start?
Horrible.
That leap of faith, right? That first few steps. And of course, at springtime, people are thinking about this now, and we're seeing it in our work. So we just thought it was a good time to talk about this. And especially the relationships that, and how those, in my opinion, and my feeling and experience, work best. So the relationship with your architect, the relationship with your builder. I've always said, I think 90% of the success of a project lies in the trust, and it lies in the relationship. Beyond that, it is numbers and management and being smart about things and getting educated. But the trust between the team really takes everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, it takes it from start to finish, if it's there, and if there's a proven track record, and I've just seen that over and over again. And it's pushed us into a method of working with our clients and contractors that really isn't conscious, but over time I look back on it now and I see that there's a method to the madness, if you will, or a method to the process. And I find in talking to people about, especially the contractor role, let's talk about that for a second, because it's so key, all right? We're in a town with a lot of great remodel contractors and new home contractors. And people with a tremendous amount of experience who've been around a long time, successful businesses that have been in our county and in our town a long time. And, I've heard people say, oh, so-and-so is expensive, so-and-so is inexpensive. That's really not how it works in the building and remodel realm. Those are reputations, or those are urban legends, if you will, that seem to get spread. Because the bottom line, 80% of the cost of any project, whether it's new, it's a remodel, lies with the subcontractors. So all of the 20, if you're doing a new home, you might have 20 to 25 subcontractors working on your project at any time. In a remodel, maybe half of that. That's really where the cost lies. So what you're looking for with your contractor, you're getting their management experience, their eye for detail and quality, and you're getting their Rolodex. That's what you are looking for. You're looking for someone who has strong, established relationships, because you as the client, the contractor, and your architect, hopefully you have an architect on your project, you form the stool, the three legs of that stool, if you will, of getting the project done. But, when you think of 80% of the work actually being done by other people, I think it puts it in a perspective how critical the experience and the role of the contractor is. So there's also this very dated idea out there from the early days of construction. Get your blueprints done, and I'm smiling and saying that a little facetiously because it became such a generic term for a house design. Get that done, put it out to bid. That works in commercial construction, where you can be very specific about all your selections, but when you're dealing with your home, it's the worst way you can approach it, in my opinion. What you want to do is get your contractor and your architect on your team right away. So then people say, oh, but then how do I get sharp pencils? How do I get the numbers? Well, you get the numbers and you get good numbers because 80% of that work is going to be done by other people outside of the three of you, right? And that's where the competitiveness comes in. That's where a good contractor will work with you, take your design, do their estimating during the design process, but take the work and then go to numbers of different subcontractors. So you could ask them, I'd really like to get competitive numbers for some of the major trades. Let's take things like drywall, painting, heating and cooling, plumbing, masonry work. You can get competitive numbers to keep your project, to keep a good eye on your project and be responsible about your numbers by doing it that way.
Damian, is the contractor the builder?
Yes, builder, contractor, construction manager, all one term rolled into one here, if you will.
But that contractor/builder may not have staff. This is where they contract out?
Yes.
And that's where...
Yeah, very few of them have their own crews.
Okay.
That's why commercial is different. So the large construction companies will have their own crews, all right? When you're small and you're doing remodel work and you're doing, say, 2 or 3 homes a year as a builder or a contractor, you can't afford, no one can afford to have crews. You can't keep people going. You might have 1 or 2 key people in your organization, project managers or site superintendents most frequently, and that's fine. But still, you're still going to go out and get a framing crew to give you a number to do the framing. You're going to get numbers from an excavator, from a concrete or a foundation contractor, whether it's concrete or block. All the costs of your project are going to be numbers, and it's going to be work done by other people for the most part.
So where does the architect fit into this then? Because I'm assuming a contractor doesn't necessarily have an architect on staff.
No, and this is where the threesome, the triad, if you will, of client architect.
And who am I calling first? Am I calling the contractor?
Either way. I've seen it work successfully either way, and that really comes out of relationship.
Well, as an architect yourself, do you have certain builders you work with?
Yes, we do. And so typically what we suggest to our clients, interview a number of contractors. We know we've worked with these people for a long time because the trust and the relationship is everything.
So you don't necessarily, if you want to go with a certain architect, have to go with their builders?
No.
Okay.
No. So the contractors we work with all know that we work this way, and they know that they can pretty much count on, if we have a new project in the office, a chance to interview with our clients.
I would imagine people listening, when we set this up, we said remodeling, that they don't think of an architect for a remodel project.
They probably don't. And there are a number of construction firms here in town, contracting firms, who specialize in remodel, who offer design build services. I think for the most part they are not licensed architects on their staff. They are people who may have experience with planning and design. Obviously, as a licensed architect, that's been our focus, is bringing what we get and what we offer as licensed professionals who are insured, who are experienced, who are trained, and this is what we do for a living. So I've seen it where the contractor will have the relationship with the client, and quite often will get an opportunity to interview with that contractor's client, and they may interview several architects. So that system works both ways, and that reinforces the whole idea of relationship. Create the relationship, get that trust, and then work together as a team. And then that also creates an open book situation. So when you're getting I also look to a contractor to be good at estimating. I mean, you hear these horror stories, right? Project was way over budget. We got to the end, we didn't have any money left. We couldn't afford to finish. That doesn't have to happen, and it shouldn't happen if it's done properly. So a good contractor, builder, construction manager will be a good estimator as well. They'll be able to take an architect's schematic design, the concept design, work with them, sit down with the owner and say, what are your expectations of finishes? What's your vision? What are you seeing, tile, wood floor, and so on? And start to put early budget numbers together.
What is a contingency fund? Because I think this is very important.
Oh, this one, it's so important. The contingency, this is how I try to explain it to our clients. It's your money. You may not spend it, but it's in the project until the end. And you as the client, I'm asking for your commitment to stick with that.
And it's in there because?
For 2 things. One, design contingencies. You as the client will and have the right to change your mind and get new ideas as the process is going along. It's normal. It's perfectly normal. But at the same time, you want to try to avoid that dreaded change order thing and things that just get out of hand. So you have design contingency. You also have unforeseen circumstances. In remodel, it's very prevalent. We work with a lot of older homes. You open up, take the drywall down, the insulation has collapsed. There's knob and tube wiring, the old stuff that's no longer to code. A staircase may not be to code. The riser may be too high. The front steps leading up to a door may be off code as well. So all of these things that are unforeseen that you run into, you want to keep some money there that can take care of those things and take the stress out of. You don't want to be right at the edge the whole time when you start, and then all of a sudden you run into something and you've got to find money. You want that contingency sum built in. And in the commercial world, a lot of the banks will actually demand it when you are going for financing. They want to see a contingency line item in their estimate. So why don't we should do that at the residential level as well.
What kinds of things should you look for in a contractor's contract?
Estimated completion. Well, actually, the first thing I like to start with, before you even get to contract, is checking references and checking their track record as well.
How do you do that?
I ask them. I mean, when we have a contractor interview, I ask them to bring a list of references to that interview that the clients can call and talk to on their own. I would look for something for residential, for remodel work that is not too complex. I think anything, I mean, the American Institute of Architects has very good proven track record with contracts. So do some of the remodel organizations, the Home Builders Association have contracts as well. You're looking for time, and you're looking for assurances of quality and for assurances of performance, in other words, the ability to complete that project. But you've got to temper your expectations in remodel work. Again, these are small organizations relying on a lot of third parties to get their work done, tremendously reliant on the weather, right, and reliant on people like building departments, permit inspections, those kinds of things. You've got to temper your expectations with remodel work when it comes to schedule. But you can ask, but the money is the part that gets really stressful, and that's where you want to be able to tie down, and the ability to tie down good numbers in your contract.
Should they be required to have insurance? Because people are coming into your home to do work.
Yes, they should be, and if not, you should talk with them and come to some agreement between the two of you as to whether you want to carry some additional homeowners insurance and see what they have, what they offer as well.
How do you roll out the payments to all of these individuals?
Generally on a monthly basis. And then it also depends on if they are working with a bank, if they're not paying cash, if they're working with a bank, what the individual bank process is. Those are fairly similar, and generally that requires a sign-off, in the instance where an architect is involved, a sign-off that the payment claim that the builder is making, that the work is done and in place. So you're asking for a third-party assurance that that work is indeed there, all the materials have been acquired and purchased and are on site.
Damian Farrell, our guest on Damian on Design. We're talking about your remodel projects and how to work with an architect, a contractor, and what those subcontractors do and how all of this comes together. So once you've got your team assembled, then what?
Move on with design and parallel that with estimating, so that you get to the point where your construction drawings are done, you're ready to go for permit, and the contractor builder is then sending out your drawings to get competitive numbers from their sub-trades, and you are all, as a team, pretty sure that you are within a 5% range, give or take. Maybe 10% if you haven't been able to make a lot of decisions, things that have been left as allowances, so things like tile, appliances, kitchen cabinets. The more you can tighten all that stuff out before you actually break ground or break walls, the better for you. The fewer allowances, the better.
Okay. And when they're working in your home, how do you make sure that everything's being followed the way you envisioned it?
Good question. A good set of drawings and a good design process. And that's where, in my mind, getting the contractor on the team up front is also so important. As I'm communicating my design to you as a client, if the contractor is there and involved, they develop an empathy for the process, for you as the client, your needs and desires, what you're looking for and your expectations. They are aware of the design as it's going. They're not just suddenly given a set of drawings and told to go build something. They're aware of the subtleties and the nuances that have taken you to a certain place. So they're aware and part of decision-making throughout. So that when you get to that point, there are no surprises. You've taken all the surprises out of it. So moving into the actual construction part of it is just it's just a transition. It's not a huge jump and a step of faith or a leap of faith that everything's going to be fine. You're feeling good that everyone knows what they're doing. We know what it's going to cost. We know what it's going to look like. And we're going to move forward to the end from here.
Do I stay in my home while this is going on?
Not when you're remodeling, please. No, we have this almost on every project. We so strongly recommend you move out. It's unhealthy. No matter how many of those dust sheets you put up and how many zip sheets you put up, you still can't avoid the fineness of drywall dust. So it's unhealthy. It's hard on the contractor. What that really means is that every day you need the power and the water back on and the heating and cooling back on. All right? And that really interrupts the work. You know, it means you've got to get that house back and livable at the end of the day. And that takes time, and that takes money, and that slows the work down. You're much better off moving out. If it's one room or you're doing a bathroom, that's fine. If you're doing a pretty wholesale project, if you're redoing a master bathroom, a kitchen, a master bedroom, adding windows, you're far better off. And you will be better, you will be less stressed. The builder can get in, take occupancy of that building and go for it.
I've been really surprised lately by some of the older homes in Ann Arbor. On the outside, you think you know what you're going to get on the inside, but people have been doing some pretty extensive remodeling. Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't quite go with the overall character of the house. Yet people want the modern look or the conveniences of certain types of products. They want to look like they're living now, not a century ago. So how do you marry that up with design?
Yeah, it's very interesting because a lot of our neighborhoods, right, the desirable ones are old neighborhoods.
Yeah.
With very traditional, smaller homes.
Burns Park,
Old West Side.
Yeah.
Most of those homes, their original character was small rooms.
Right.
Series of small rooms. Now we want this very open living. I think it's become quite acceptable now to people, this dichotomy, if you will, of exterior to interior. And you're seeing, some approaches which is if you're doing anything to the exterior that it's totally in keeping and totally empathetic with what's there. So it's a continuation of its craftsman style. Then you're also seeing some of the other approach, which is we actually want to do an addition that's distinctly an addition. We don't see anything in the house that we particularly like character-wise on the outside. And there are many of those homes, right? There are many of those very simple post-war bungalows. They're not very aesthetically appealing. And they're very simple facades, not much to them. They don't have much excitement. And so we're seeing people go in and do something that is either very contemporary or even giving the house a style that it may not have had in the past to try to tie things together. But you're right, there is a big difference between interior and exterior these days.
Well, not only that, but also, what if the foundation is bad? What if the electrical wire, whatever it might be, it's like just painting over something that underneath isn't...
Yeah, you've got to do your homework. If you're going in and purchasing a home these days, fortunately a lot of the homes have had something done to them. But there are still those homes that haven't. And you've got to be really careful. You really need to get a good contractor, a good architect, and in some cases a good structural engineer to take a look at that home for you, even if it's a small home. Because foundation, we have lousy soils in this area. We have clay. So that doesn't drain very well. So if drain tiles are no longer working and you're getting leaking, or if they are old concrete block walls that have been absorbing moisture for years and years, and we've all walked into those basements, right? I mean, I have developed a terrible allergy to mold. My eyes start to burn up and I start to get headaches and so on within minutes of walking into, I'm like a mold detector, a walking mold detector now. You've got to be careful about those things. But I think fortunately most of the homes now have been upgraded, at least heating and cooling and electrical and plumbing.
All right. What are some last tips that you want to impress upon our listeners about remodeling?
Do your homework up front. Talk to other people who've done it. We've got such incredible assets and resources available to us now. We just had Liz Hausman from House. There's a great resource for you, the whole House network of people.
And that's HOUZZ.com.
Yeah. Talk to people, talk to contractors, interview people. Call up remodel contractors or builders. Go talk to them, up front. You don't have to have a project to go do that. I'm thinking of doing this. What's your advice? Come and look at my house. If you're willing, would you come and look at my house? I do that a great deal. I go see many houses. People are considering doing something, and they want some advice. So, and trust a good contractor. You know, if you're DIY is a great deal of fun, but it can also be very, very dangerous and very expensive, and it can be very disheartening. Just a crucial point on DIY work. People forget that contractors can buy materials, components at prices better than they can buy them, even from the big home department.
So you may
type
not be
stores.
saving money
You may
by
not be saving
hiring
money.
an expert.
Correct. Yeah, in fact, it's highly unlikely that you'll be saving money.
Okay.
These contractors have established relationships. They've been paying their bills for many years. They get good discounts and they get good service, and they get good. And the service is the best thing. If something goes wrong, you want to have recall. It's hard to get recall on stuff,
Right.
and recourse on stuff when you're just buying things yourself,
Right.
and you don't buy in volume and in bulk.
All right, some good insight into this, because a lot of you are going to be gearing up now in the spring and summer to spruce up those homes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Damian.
Sure.
And you can go online to dfdgonline.com. That's Damian Farrell Design Group, dfdgonline.com. See Damian's projects and learn more. And also don't forget about Damian Farrell's YouTube channel, where these interviews can be accessed. More coming up. That was Damian on Design on the Lucy Ann Lance Show as we continue here on Ann Arbor's Talk Station, 1290 WLBY. Perfect. That was great. Thank
Good.
you. Thank you.